Happy Friday, everybody. And boy, do we have a full slate of action this weekend in college football and pro football. And we even have a game in Germany, which is going to be the early game. There's going to be actually four windows of NFL football on Sunday. So, you might want to stock up on your beverages and your favorite fast food and just get ready to hunker down and take over the living room for about 16 hours on Sunday. So let's start. We can start tonight, actually, with some college football. And we've got the Ivy League, which, of course, is Princeton and Dartmouth. That game, 7 o'clock on ESPNU. Eric Fetty and Jack Ford on the call. We've got a ACC game with Boston College at Syracuse. That's at ESPN2. Amish Ashrof and Andre Ware on the call. And then we go out west for one of the better games in the WAC with Colorado State and Wyoming. Wyoming has overperformed this year. Colorado State's played pretty well. That's on CBSN. That's Chris Lewis and Robert Turbin. So that game, Colorado State, Wyoming, two teams that have done well in the Western Athletic Conference. And, we'll see just it's kind of a survivor game. The team that wins tonight, be it Wyoming or Colorado State, still has, outside shot to take that title. And at very least, a bowl is in the offing for them. All right, ABC noon tomorrow. Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy will be in Clemson, South Carolina when Notre Dame takes on Clemson. And this one, oh man, I got to say, Notre Dame, if Notre Dame beats Clemson, and they likely will, it really is going to put Dabo Swinney and his Tigers in a bind, because that'll be the second year in a row that Clemson didn't not only didn't make the playoffs, but really didn't show up very strongly. And Clemson can't. Clemson wants to move on and move up, but if they fall into the pit of basically not being, an also-ran in the ACC, that really does kind of take the luster off of Clemson. It could very well make sure that sticking to the ACC is probably the best bet for them. And so we'll see how Dabo and the boys play in Death Valley, but Notre Dame comes in there. Notre Dame has had pretty good season thus far. They only lost one game, and that was to Ohio State. So at this point, Clemson definitely the underdog in this game at home against a pretty talented Notre Dame team. So we'll see how that plays out. Once again, that's straight up at noon. That's ABC, Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy. CBS has a big one, and it's Ohio State Rutgers. Now, that's a noon game. Tom McCarthy, a buddy of ours from Philadelphia, making the call. Ross Tucker, who last night, by the way, did the Steelers game in Pittsburgh, is jetted across to Piscataway, New Jersey, where he will be tomorrow on the call with McCarthy. That's a noon game. CBS, Ohio State Rutgers. Rutgers has played surprisingly well under, basically kind of under the radar. And now, does that mean they will beat Ohio State? Probably not, but it does mean that they're capable of scaring the living daylights out of them. So we'll see. Number one, this is the first week, by the way, that Ohio State is in that lofty position at the number one spot in the CFP. So we'll see how that works out. Ohio State, Rutgers, noon, CBS. Kansas State at Texas. Now that's the noon game on Fox. Gus Johnson, Joe Klatt. So they get the A team on big noon on Fox. Texas banged up. I mean, we know they're down to their second or third string quarterback, And that's not necessarily a good thing when Kansas State comes to town. Remember that Kansas State has done pretty well against Texas in the past. This is the last time they can play each other for a very long time because they're going into different conference as Texas heads for the SEC. So Kansas State looking to pull the upset. Number 7, Texas. Number 23, Kansas State. That game being played in Austin. So it's going to be a tall task for Texas. I'm sorry, for Kansas State to beat Texas at Texas's home stadium. Another 12 o'clock game. This one's on ESPN. Joe Tessitore and Jordan Rogers. And that, of course, is Texas A&M at Ole Miss. What can you say? Ole Miss has played pretty well, given what Lane Kiffin has done down there. And, I think that they would love nothing more than to give Texas A&M just one more, nail in a very long coffin for them. It's been a long season for A&M. They've underproduced, and I have no reason to believe that they're going to go to, to Jackson and beat Ole Miss. So there you go. Let's pop over real quick to, is there any other game prior to the 3:30 window that's of value to watch? Not really. Let's move on to the 3:30 windows. Let's look first at the 3:30 window. Bedlam on ABC. This one could be the game of the day. Oklahoma State. Oklahoma coming in. Now, Oklahoma hasn't looked really good in the past couple of weeks. Oklahoma State pulled off a huge win last week. And so, the Cowboys, this is it. They know that they're not going to play Oklahoma for, a number of years, even though, of course, Oklahoma, like Texas, is going to the SEC. Oklahoma State is a team that seems to have found their footing at the right time. And that's, when they play Bedlam, this is a big, it's hard to explain how good this rivalry is, and the sad fact that it will be no longer played is really a shame. Every year it's been, either Oklahoma or Oklahoma State has come in there, with as the underdog and pulled off a win, and so it's always been fun to watch, and we definitely will miss it. So Oklahoma at Oklahoma State at Boone Pickens Stadium, and should be a good football game. And don't be surprised if Oklahoma State does some damage and beats Oklahoma in that game. Dave Pasch, Dusty Dovrachak, and Tom Luckenbill on the call for ABC. On CBS, it's number 12, Missouri. Now, Missouri's only lost once, and they face a Georgia team that slipped down to the number 2 spot. That's on CBS 3:30. Rich Waltz and Aaron Taylor on the call for that game. It's going to be interesting. Georgia playing at Sanford Stadium there in Athens. Between the hedges, Missouri has kind of, we talked about teams flying under the radar. Missouri's been one of those teams. Very interesting situation. We'll have to see how that plays out. But Georgia should be able to win this game. I don't know by how much, because Missouri has been able to score on pretty much everybody they've played. So this is going to be an interesting football game, and we'll see. Now, Kirby Smart, the coach of Georgia, might use the fact that they might be disrespected by the national media from the CFP and everybody else. They were number 1, but now they're number 2. And so maybe that will kick Georgia into high gear, and the Georgia that we saw last year will return, and they are undefeated. They're playing better defense, so who knows what's going to happen. Georgia should be Missouri. It'll be a fun game to watch. Penn State at Maryland. It's a rivalry game. Penn State's the 11th best team in the country. But, and it's on Fox, 3:30, Jason Benedetti and Brock Heward on the call. You know, to be honest, this is a trap game for Penn State. I mean, there's every reason to believe that when they come to College Park, that it's going to be a tough day for the Nittany Lions. So I'm looking for a close game here. I think Penn State will win, but it should be a close game. Definitely worth checking out. Florida State is in Pittsburgh, and that's the ESPN game at 3:30. Mark Jones, Lewis Riddick, and Quinn Kesnick, the star lacrosse player from Johns Hopkins, on the call for that game. Florida State, this is a pretty interesting one. They're number 4 in the country. They're number 4 in the CFP poll, and if they win over Pittsburgh, who got clobbered by Notre Dame last week, they become part of the championship game of the ACC. So a chance to nail down that spot very early, and a good opportunity for it. Florida State's got the talent. They've shown that they can play on the road, and they're going to play a Pittsburgh team that just got blown out by Notre Dame. So we'll see how it plays out. It'll be very interesting. Undefeated James Madison takes on Georgia State. That's on ESPN2 with Beth Mowins and Kirk Morrison on the call for that one. UCF and Cincinnati is on FS1. Adam Alexander, Dave Garvin. That's also a 3:30 game. It's the battle of two teams that have been very unimpressive in the Big 12, and one of them is going to get their first win. UCF and Cincinnati. That's a 3:30 game on FS1. All right, so let's move on now up to the later games, and we got some good ones at 7. Starting with Kansas at Iowa State. That's on ESPN. That's Mike Morocco and RG3 Robert Griffin III, who, by the way, has become a really good analyst, and you should check him out, Robert Griffin III. He certainly, I think, in a few years is going to be a number 1 analyst for somebody. And right now he's enjoying the number 3 role for ESPN. So that's the 7 o'clock game on ESPN. Kansas against Iowa State. Kansas coming off that big win last week over Oklahoma. Iowa State, again, one of those one-loss teams in the Big 12. So we'll see how that plays out. BYU at West Virginia. That's a 7 o'clock game on Fox. And I got to admit, Alex Faust and Robert Smith are going to be on the call for that one. This is one of those games where you've got two teams that want to become bowl eligible. Everybody had written them off before the season even started, so they have overperformed, and it'll be interesting because BYU on paper is a better team. West Virginia, though, plays very well at home. So, and West Virginia's been surprising a lot of people. So we'll see if they can continue to surprise us as they move forward in that big game on Saturday night on Fox. FS1 has Utah State and San Diego State in the big, in the WAC. The Mountain West. What am I talking about? The MAC. It's the Mountain West conference. So yeah, Utah State, San Diego State, Mountain West. I think I said Colorado and Wyoming, Colorado State and Wyoming in the WAC. They also are a Mountain West team. So my mistake on that. I'm sorry. Utah State, San Diego State not playing that well. Utah State playing better. That's the FS1 game. Guy Haberman, Petro Papadakis on the call. Washington, USC, that is the game on ABC at 7:30. Chris Fowler, Curve Herbstreit. Clearly, that's the A game. Now, Washington has played really well offensively. Michael Penix Jr., quarterback there, probably in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy, and he's playing up against a USC team that hadn't scored a lot of points until recently, and they have the reigning Heisman Trophy winner in Caleb Williams. on their side. So it's going to be an interesting game. Washington at USC. The game's going to be played at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Interesting to see how Washington, who is number 5, um, plays against a USC team that is at number 20 in the rankings. So Washington and USC. The game on NBC, Purdue at Michigan. Michigan's number 3 in the country. They've got a backloaded schedule. They're gonna next week go play Penn State, then they go to Ohio State, and so they've got their tough sledding ahead of them. Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge on that call. And could Purdue go into the Big House and win? They could, but I doubt that's going to happen. We'll see. Anyway, ESPNU. Here's this. I mean, this is an interesting one. This is a rivalry game. Southern Methodist at Rice. You got Southern Methodist, of course, from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Rice from Houston. And John Shriffen and Charles Arbuckle on the call of that game. Interesting game. It should be a lot of fun to watch. A lot of offense in this game. Both of those teams put some points on the board. So Rice and Southern Methodist. Look for Rice to come out of this one, I would think, as the winner. Both those teams, as I said before, score a lot of points in what is definitely a defensive optional game from that situation. Southern Methodist against Rice. That, of course, is a 7:30 game on ESPNU. Okay, Kentucky, Mississippi State. That's on the South, the SEC network. Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kebnick on that call. It's really, you got to think Kentucky's got a better chance of taking this game than Mississippi State, but we'll have to check it out and see. 7:45 on CBS, Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson doing the A game in primetime. And that, of course, is number 14, LSU, and number 8, Alabama. Brian Kelly is hoping to take the Tigers into Tuscaloosa and come out with a win. I wouldn't be too excited about that happening. Alabama's still Alabama, and they've got a good defense. So, fun game to watch on CBS in the primetime slot. Maybe more interesting than Washington USC, depending upon how that one goes. That could be one side of Washington, and that could be over early, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Anyway, there's that. Miami at NC State. That's the 8 o'clock game on the ACC network. West Durham and Timmy Hasselbeck on the call there. Both these teams want to become bowl eligible. A win will get them there, and Miami's done some really good work at NC State and Raleigh in the past, so we'll have to see if that happens here. Here's one of those ones under the radar, and it's on. It's going to be on the Pac-12 network. Stanford at Washington State. Stanford is playing much, much better, and Washington State is doing well themselves. So this is a survivor game. Get yourself in a position for potential bowl for Stanford. Washington State is bowl eligible already. So if they can go into Pullman and come out with a win, that would be a big, big thing for Stanford, who is overperforming from what most people expected. All right, the late games. And here, this would be, of course, the Pac-12 After Dark game, Oregon State at Colorado. Colorado came out of the blocks with Coach Prime playing pretty well. And, at the beginning of the season, they have, the schedule has caught up with them. There you go. The schedule has caught up with them. And Oregon State comes to Boulder, Colorado to play a talented team, but not a deep team. And that's the problem. Colorado has seen over the past few weeks that, life is tough when, when you have to play these big guys who have depth when you don't have it. And so Colorado, if Colorado's going to get bowl eligible, they've got to beat of Oregon State, and the Beavs have played well this year, and they still are 16th best in the country. And I don't know. It's going to be tough for Colorado to put it on there. We'll see how Mr. Sanders does at quarterback, Sadoo Sanders, against the Oregon State team that has played pretty well themselves. So we'll see. This one should be neither team overly defensive, so this one should be a high scoring one. It should be entertaining. 10 o'clock, Pac-12 After Dark, Oregon State, Colorado, Dave Fleming, and Brock Osweiler on the call. Boise State at Fresno State in the Mountain. That's a 10 o'clock game on CBSN. Jordan Kent and Dante Whitmer on the call. And then on FS1 at 10:30, UCLA, which I gotta say, Brian Kelly's got this team playing real well. And defensively just knocking it out of the park. So UCLA's the hottest, probably the hottest team other than, say, Oregon, I suppose. Oregon is the hottest team in the Pac-12, but not far behind them. Obviously, Washington and UCLA has stepped up big time for Brian Kelly. So that'll be one to keep an eye on coming up on 10:30 on FS1. Jeff Levering and Mark Hyrick on the call. So that's your schedule of games starting tonight and going all the way through the weekend on the end college football. So let's move up here to week number 9, and this is where the best game on week number 9 probably is going to be Sunday morning. That's where Miami takes on Kansas City and Frankfurt, Germany. Richie Eisen, Jason McCourty, Dan Orlowski on the call. The game's going to be played in Frankfurt. It's going to be an entertaining game. We've got the two best teams, in my opinion, in the American Football Conference. Miami against Kansas City. Now, it's going to be a lot of fun. You get two good quarterbacks in Tua and, of course, the one, the only, Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. It's Miami's speed at the wide receiver post is going to be a tough thing for Kansas City to handle. Now, they played better defense recently, but they got beat last week in Denver, and Andy Reid, had a long plane flight to explain to his boys this can't happen again. Miami, on the other hand, does actually play a pretty good defense, and that's going to give Kansas City some heartburn, no doubt. So we'll see two very good football teams early on Sunday morning. That's a 9:30 game Eastern time on the NFL Network. Richie Eisen, Jason McCourty, Dan Orlowski on the call. We'll get back to the Sunday night game, which is Buffalo at Cincinnati in a while, but let's start with the games on CBS. CBS has Seattle-Baltimore. This one is a bit of a sleeper. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. So clearly that's the national game. And Baltimore's played well lately. Seattle leading the West. So you have two division leaders. It's a little difficult to make the trek. For some reason, for teams out west to come east, it's a little more difficult for them to do that. But we'll see. Seattle, is a team with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith at quarterback. These are guys who are professional, have the Seahawks ready to rock and roll. The game is in Charm City, and Baltimore has been playing well lately. It's going to be a low-scoring game, I would imagine, and we'll see how Baltimore handles it. But I do think with Lamar Jackson and all the quality players he has on his offensive team, and that should settle up pretty well for him. Tampa Bay at Houston. This is this is a survivor game. There's no question about it. It's the kind of game that If you're Tampa Bay, you got to win it. Houston, you got to win it. I mean, if there's any hope that the Buccaneers are going to make the playoffs this year and contend for the South, they've got to beat Houston. And Iron Eagle Charles Davis is on the call, and Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers offense is. We know they're not going to run. They can't run. So that part we know. So what do we do? Well, what we do is what we have to do, and that, of course, is play defense, try to turn the ball over, get turnovers for Houston. C.J. Stroud, quarterback in Houston, doesn't usually turn them over, so that's going to be an interesting situation. So yeah, the Bucs have to win one on the road, and if they're going to change the season, this could go. If they don't win, it could go badly for the rest of the season for Tampa Bay. Chicago at New Orleans, really not much to say about this. New Orleans has a much better team than Chicago, and they're playing at home, so that shouldn't be a problem for them. Andrew Cardellone, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan on the call for the New Orleans-Chicago game. Arizona's at Cleveland. Cleveland's a much better football team than Arizona, and they should have not much problem in that game on the lake down in Cleveland. Spiro Ditas had a Marshalletta on the call. The late game on CBS, Indianapolis, Carolina. Carolina's only won one game, and Indianapolis has played pretty decent football. So, you think that Indianapolis can fly into Charlotte and fly out with a win. It's probably going to be an ugly game. Neither of these teams play particularly clean games. So yeah, definitely ugly. Indianapolis wins it in what might just be a boring football game. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green on the call. Fox. Let's go with the Fox. The early games. The Rams are at Green Bay. Adam Armin and Daryl Johnson on that game. Should be interesting. The Rams still have an outside shot at getting to the playoffs, and we'll see how that plays out against the Green Bay team, who is trying to find themselves. They're not exactly in position, but the funny thing is with Minnesota being without their starting quarterback Kirk Cousins, then should be a very interesting situation. Green Bay and the Rams. Okay, that game, as I said, Adam Armin, Daryl Johnson on the call. Washington and New England. Washington traded two of their best defensive players away this week. New England, on the other hand, has just beaten no one. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma on this game. It's New England's a 3-point favorite in this game over Washington, which basically means it's an even game. It should be fun, and we'll see. Washington is putting points on the board. New England isn't, so maybe, just maybe, this is a game that Washington goes to New England and walks out of Foxborough with the steal. So we'll see. Minnesota at Atlanta. Mentioned that Minnesota without Kirk Cousins. Atlanta has decided they're going to start Taylor Heineke, former quarterback at Old Dominion University, and surprisingly one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. And frankly, Atlanta might just be better with Taylor Heineke quarterback as opposed to Desmond Ridder, who is their normal quarterback, kid who's in his second year out of Cincinnati. So Minnesota, Atlanta, Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth on the call there. Should be entertaining, but thinking Atlanta might just sneak by only because they're the home team on this one. A big game in Philly, Dallas and Philadelphia. Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson on this call, which is, of course, the game that everybody in the country, with the exception of New York and Las Vegas, will be able to see. And, look, Dallas has played pretty well lately. Philadelphia has only lost one game. and it's a big NFC East game for both. And look, Philadelphia has been winning ugly, but they've still been winning. Uh, Dallas, they're going to try to exploit the secondary of Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia probably. Dallas has got a very good defense, but they can run, and they've got a good balanced team. So we'll see how that plays out. Looking at Philly probably gets the win at home this week. The Giants at Vegas, Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez. It is that's a monster. That's a scary game. It's an absolutely scary game because, to be honest, who knows who's going to win? And more importantly, who cares? But Vegas fired the coach this week and benched the quarterback. So they've got their linebacker coach is the head coach this week. The Giants have just been a disaster this season. It's been a terrible season for the Giants. So the Giants and the Raiders in Vegas in a friends and family game. So there you go. Now the night game on Sunday night, which we alluded to a little bit earlier, Buffalo at Cincinnati should be good. Should be a really good game because Cincinnati's starting to play like we expect them to play. They always have a terrible, get out of the gate, a little sloppy. But Joe Burrow's playing well now, and Buffalo really has to win this game. It's silly to say this, but both of these teams can't afford another loss, and certainly playing in Cincinnati helps the Bengals. And if Buffalo loses at Cincinnati and Miami pulls off a win, that's 3 games behind the first place Miami Dolphins, and that makes it's a hard situation to pull, to come back from that. And this may be, Josh Allen at quarterback at Buffalo. This might just be a big loss for them at the wrong possible time. So there you go. So anyhow, let's see. Here we go. And here we go. All right. So that's what we got on football in this week. And we got, as I said, the NFL. We've got and we've got what's going on in the NFL and college football. So there you go with that. Let's take a couple of questions before we get out of here on a Friday, and let's check and see who's asking what. Okay, bear with me for just one moment, and we will get you there. Checking our little account here for what's going on. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay. All righty. Okay. So Zach wants to know about BYU and West Virginia. He thinks that West Virginia is definitely going to be there. I'm saying that it's tough to win in Morgantown. So yeah, I think that your Mountaineers probably are going to come out of this okay. So hang in there, Zach. We'll be with you. Lucy, what do you want to know? Okay. What is your percentage chance that Oregon State and Washington State end up in the ACC in the next 12 months? That's a good question, Lucy. I would have to say, if I had to guess, and that is exactly what I'm doing, is guessing. I would say it's probably 60% chance that they end up there. And why? Because of course we've got this situation of having Stanford and Cal, who left the Pac-12 and entered the ACC. It doesn't seem at this point in time that the Big 12 is looking to add any more schools than what they already have, although you never count them out. But yeah, I wouldn't be. I think adding Oregon State and Washington State would really be a good point to do for the ACC. It backloads them with Power 5 teams, and Oregon State and Washington State, as we've said before, both of these teams have been ranked in the top 25 this year and have played really good football. So they would not be bad additions to the ACC, and they would give the ACC certainly depth in that regard. So I wouldn't rule it out, and I would think that they would likely want to be in the Big 12, probably because of the logistics aspect of it. They're still talking to the Mountain with the possibility of a merger there. So there's a lot of moving parts in this story. So it's going to be continued. But I'm going to go with 60%. What do you think? Okay, 60% on that one. All right. Anna, what do you got? Colorado State last Saturday game drew 9.3. Colorado State game. This was a while back. It wasn't last week. It was watched by 9.13. Watched. Okay. You're basically saying that the Colorado and Colorado State game outrated Florida State and LSU, which is true. Okay, and they outrated the Texas Alabama one too, and that's true. Now, if you recall, Anna, and I'm sure you do, the Colorado State game was the second game that Colorado played this season. Okay, and Deion Sanders was, and his team, but more than anything, Coach Prime, was attracting a huge crossover audience. A lot of people who really don't follow college football were, they were very interested in Deion. And so the Deion factor was there then, and the ratings of that game was good, and there's no question about that. And did it top FSU and LSU? Yeah. Did it top Texas, Alabama? Absolutely. You've got the numbers, you put them there. But here's the thing. Ever since they started losing, Colorado still getting good numbers, don't get me wrong on that, but they're not getting the numbers that they were getting, and people have seen Coach Deion Sanders now. They've seen his team, and they see that what they've got is a very entertaining team, a lot of fun to watch, but not necessarily a championship caliber team. And for that matter, not even a team that wins. So lots to be looking out for that one, okay? All right, so there you go. What do we got here? Let's see. Coos. Justin, what's he doing there, buddy? Yeah, West Virginia. Yeah, I like West Virginia. You're right. I'm on West Virginia there. Okay. You got Zach Smith. What do you got for me, Zach? Is the Michigan offensive coordinator basically knowing what's going on because of the sign stealing? Look, I don't know. It hasn't been confirmed that they have been caught stealing signs. It's been widely reported, but it hasn't been, no edict has come down from the conference in Big Ten. Trust me, they would be more than happy to do it, so we'll see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, we'll have to see what they, and they're innocent until proven guilty. And so far, there's been a lot of smoke, but not the fire aspect of it. So we'll see, okay? All righty. Let's see what we got here on Lachlan. What do you got? Not much. Okay. Um, Benjamin, what's up, Benjamin? Okay, he would like to kick out Wake Forest, take Oklahoma State, Kansas, West Virginia, maybe 4 corner schools, 1 Texas school, into what? Into the ACC. Okay, not going to happen. Okay, Ben, it's just not going to happen. You may wish that to happen, but that's not how it works. Okay, they can take on Oklahoma State. I'm sorry, they can't take Oregon State, and they can take on Washington State, and they could add Memphis, UConn, and Tulane as you have here as optional. But no, it's just not going to happen. You're asking that teams from an existing conference. First of all, you can't kick someone out of the conference. They have to, and certainly not Wake. You're not going to kick out of the conference. So that's not going to happen. You're asking to take schools from the Big 12. They're under a contract, so that's not going to happen. So your fantasy here of this happening, from what you would personally like to see as to what reality is it's not going to happen. Okay, but it's entertaining. Ben, you're always an entertaining person. No question about that. Let's see, we got Quinn's got not much. Just make it. Look, Quinn, you're talking about here. FSU is not going independent. They said that earlier in the week, so that's not going to happen. Their best chance might be the Big Ten, maybe, but they're going to have to wait. You're saying they want to do a long-term lump sum payout, which is a lot less than people think. Well, no, it's not, Quinn. It's not less than people think. It's in the neighborhood of anywhere from $250 to $500 million, which is not an easy payment and not something that kind of money FSU has at this point in time. I think FSU should just keep on rolling, and if they can make the playoffs, that would be good. But no, this fallacy that FSU can get out, on the cheap is just ridiculous. So sorry to break your bubble there, bud, but no, ain't gonna happen. All right, Ralph, what you got for me? Man, you guys are all over this FSU stuff. Look, guys, it's crap, okay? I'm telling you. FSU is not going anywhere until the ACC chooses to let them go someplace. And if they do, it's going to cost them a ton of money, okay? So I know you want to join a different conference, in this case, the PAC. I'm sorry, the Big Ten. $300 million? You're saying that you're sure that FSU would be willing to pay $300 million? $300 million on a state school? Are you nuts? It's not going to happen. They're not going to do it. They'd have to raise the money from some other venue. They just don't have that kind of money. $300 million is a lot of money. So yeah, I mean, again, I get what you're saying. I see that you want it to happen, but I want to have a Lamborghini. I'm not going to get a Lamborghini. Okay, it doesn't work that way. All right, it's want versus have, and they want to be in the Big 12. They have a contract with the ACC. All right, so guys, just give it up. Seems like you guys aren't giving it up because every other question I'm looking at right here has to do with how FSU's leaving the ACC. I'm only going to say it one more time. They're not leaving the ACC until the ACC figures out a way that they would let them out. That's number one. Number two, they got nowhere to go. Nobody has offered them a deal to come and play for them. So, again, I get what you're asking and you're saying, because this is what you want to have happen, but that's fantasy world. We're not living in fantasy world, we're living in real world, and real world says you have a contract with the ACC you cannot get out of that contract unless the ACC is willing to do that. Bless you. The Big 12 knows that because they saw what happened to Oklahoma and Texas. Both of those teams had to pay them $100 million to get out, and they had 2 years left on a contract. The ACC contract goes through 2036. So we're talking, cashing out, as I said before, but anywhere between $300 and $500 million if they had that. And again, there's no way they've got it. The grant of rights is not going to let it happen. So guys, as much as I appreciate what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say, because if you're a fan, you definitely want your team to go where you want them to go. But guys, it's just, the business of sports is that a contract's a contract. You can't break the contract. And if they could have broken the contract, they'd have done months ago. Okay, there's no contract to break. The Big Ten is probably not going to add any more teams until their next TV contract, and so that's another 7 years. So we're going to have a long time for this to drag on. Now, does that mean that they could not negotiate some sort of deal out of the conference? Only if the money was good for the conference and could be split between the others, and that's why adding some teams may make some sense. So we'll see where it goes. What is this one? We'll take a last question here from Ben Hawks. What you got, Ben? Before teams leave 2027, sees a contractual look-in, could see ESPN asked to reduce the payout. It's unpaid now. It's underpaid now at $24 per school. But the contract is backloaded, Ben. Okay, that's 24 now, but it's gonna be 35 or 36 in 3 more years, and then it's 40 the last 5 years of the contract. So there's plenty of time to get that. Let's see what else is in there. A lot of FSU stuff. See if we got anything other than an FSU question. So far, no. Come on, guys. Let's see. All right. Cal. All right. Unfiltered truth. What do you think about Cal? Are they the biggest clowns in college football right now? Well, no, they're not. Cal's playing a really good football, so unfiltered truth, you may want to take a look at that. Okay, they have played really well. They almost took out Washington last week in a game that they played in Strawberry Canyon. Watch and take a look. They're going to be a good football team. They're going to be better. I'll tell you what. If Cal played Clemson, if they were in the ACC together now, Cal played Clemson, I think it'd be tough for Clemson to beat Cal. And they're getting another really good recruiting class. So don't sleep on Cal. That would be a mistake. Okay. Everything else has to do right now with FSU. Wait a minute. We got one here. The last question. Scenario: if the ACC takes money from FSU, Clemson, USC, and maybe one other team, they can use it, and the others will survive to the 2026 when the Big 12 media deal is up, and the Big 12 can poach some of the teams there. That's probably a fallacy as well. Okay, the ACC doesn't want to, give up teams. Is the Big 12 going to poach, or could they poach ACC teams? highly unlikely. But, you know, look, anything can happen. Not going to say no. But very interesting, guys. Very, very interesting. All right? Okay, cool. All right, let's see what we got here as we get out of town for the weekend. Hope that everybody had a good time. Remember, uh, at 506 Sports, that's 506sports.com, you can get all of the information that I gave you with regard to the games, when they're being played, who the broadcasters are, all that's there, which you're certainly welcome to go out and check if you want to find out what time games are on TV in your neck of the woods, both professional and college. Then check those guys out there. Good people. All right, now, so we will see you back on Monday. Amedeus is going to be in Pittsburgh tomorrow to watch number 4 Florida State take on the Pitt Panthers. And as we said before, if Florida State does go ahead and win that game, they will be the first to punch their ticket to a championship game in a conference, and certainly in a major conference. So there you go. FSU has that opportunity coming up this weekend. So anyway, everybody have a good weekend. Be safe. Enjoy yourselves. Watch some fun football. It's going to be cold here on the East Coast, so it'll be a good weekend to just kind of hang in and watch some television, okay? All right, everybody, have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday, okay? Take care.